for coming out. We're super fortunate to have Carole Rodoni here to speak for us. This is our second annual installation of Lunch and Learn with Carole Rodoni. She's been in the real estate business for over 20 years now, and she's held chief executive positions at Cornish & Carey and Alon Pennell. She's a published author who regularly tours and typically speaks for realtors and mortgage brokers, but we want to do something different and offer her knowledge and insight to our clients, and that's why you're all here today. Thank you for coming. Without further ado, the Oracle, Carole Rodoni.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, I want to start to talk a little bit. I want to start with the national economy, get down to global economy, and then we'll get down to real estate, because you are in a magical place here. Real estate here is like no other place in the world. So I want to talk a little bit about the national economy, and I want to start and go back and talk about recessions. You know, recessions are not uncommon, and they happen about every 8 years in the United States of America. And we've had them, but the one that we had, the last one, is really deep. And you know, recessions are not bad as long as they only last about 14 to 18 months. Because then the consumer stops spending, obviously businesses slow down, and basically interest rates go down, and basically banks and basically the government becomes the fuel for the economy. Well, this last one unfortunately lasted 8 years. Now, not here, but if you go back and you look at Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania, they're still basically in a recession mode. So when you have a recession that lasts that long, the government has to use a lot of leverage in order to keep us going. And we eventually hit the wall. Well, I think last year was the year that we hit the wall, because we were $800 billion short in the budget that we had last year. And it took us 200 years to basically get to $10 trillion in debt. And we doubled that in the last 8 years. In the last 10 years, we're now at almost $20 trillion in debt. So something had to change, and obviously you know that it changed in Washington, because we certainly have a new person there and a new president. So at the end of the day, what did we do last year? We did 1.9% GDP, which is a very bad number for a country that's the largest in the world. And at the end of the day, they keep saying 3%, 3%, 3% is the magical number that we need to get to. Well, let's see what happened and what happened last year that made us get to 1.9. We started the Dow at 18,005, so everybody thought this is the magic year. We're going to be at 3%. Well, of course, by February, the Dow was down to 16,000 because they brought every stock down in the world. And then we had basically the Chinese came out and they said they weren't going to grow as fast, and then they devalued their currency, which even made it worse for our stock market and for our GDP. And then you had basically the European Common Union, and you had the big vote in England, and obviously they decided to get out of the European Common Union, which was a surprise to everybody, and that shocked us. We've had terrorist attacks around the world. And then I guess I could say this: if somebody had said that Mrs. Clinton wouldn't be president, you probably would have said I was not on marijuana. And if I had said that Donald Trump would be the president of the United States, you would have probably said that I graduated to cocaine. But at the end of the day, that's the way it is, guys. So we had a year like no other year. Everything that was supposed to happen didn't happen. So now we move into 2017, and let's talk about what they're supposed to do. The stock market didn't go to hell the minute he was elected, and everybody thought it would. The real estate market has been so hot, and hottest here than any place almost in the world, and they said that it wouldn't be. So what happened and why? I don't think it's necessarily because of him. I think it's because of the things they said they were going to do. Lower taxes, infrastructure, take Obamacare and kind of tweak it, do basically Dodd-Frank and redo it, and do all those things that would help us get our GDP up and growing. So have they done that? Well, let's talk about that. First of all, when it comes to the tax bill, they have a one page that they put out, but let's talk about it. It will never look the same as what they say, but I think that this is generally what they want to do. I think they would like to lower consumer taxes. So if you're at a 39% rate, they probably want to lower you to 35. Now, in order for it not to be a tax break for the rich, they're going to say, okay, California, everybody's going down from 39 to 35, but we're not going to allow you to take any of your state deductions. That's what they're going to try to do. But if you look at that and think about that, if you get a break over here at the federal, it basically will balance what you're going to lose on this side. So it's kind of a balancing act. And if you look around by county, what do people traditionally pay? Well, the poorest counties, people pay around $5,000 in state taxes and sales taxes, etc. When you get to San Francisco and we're in, it's more like 25 to 30,000 because this is a really rich kind of county. But at the end, even if they do that and they won't let us take the state deductions, we will survive. The other thing they're looking at is we have something called the alternative minimum tax, which is a federal tax that says if you make more than $190,000 a year, you don't get your state deductions anyway, and that's been there for years. So there's many of us that have never gotten our state deductions and don't even realize it. So that's one thing they want to do. They want to basically look at corporations and take that down. So they would like corporations to go from 35% down to 15%. That's never going to happen in your lifetime and mine. Maybe they'll take them down to 25 if we're lucky, and that'll be great. What we really want is all this money we have sitting abroad that they won't bring back corporations because of the taxes. If we could get that back, that's about $2 to $3 trillion, and $1 trillion of it belongs in this valley. So we would very much like for that to come back. All the other things they put in the tax thing, they're never going to get done, so that's that. They have done things with basically Dodd-Frank, and that's a good thing. Dodd-Frank obviously was all the regulations and handcuffs that they put on the banks, and the big banks can survive with all the regulations and all the basically reliance and all the things they need to have. But the local and regional banks have made it very hard for them to do the kind of lending they need to do. So you're going to see lending open up now for people that are first-time buyers, the FHAs, lower down payments, sometimes shared appreciation, more creative loans. That will help people who are trying to get in. Obamacare, you know they've tried twice now and they still haven't passed it. But here's why they have to tweak Obamacare. Obamacare cost us $1 trillion last year, more than they budgeted. But the real reason that it's in trouble is that 4 big insurance companies have said, if you don't change it by 2018, we're not going to be in the healthcare business anymore. And that basically is United Healthcare, it's Anthem, it's basically Humana, and basically one other there. And those are big health companies, and so we have to tweak it at least. Infrastructure, let's talk about why they're doing that. They're saying that America needs a facelift. She needs a little Botox. She's getting tired out there. And I would agree with that. Our airports don't look too great, even though the roads and the bridges. But the real reason that they're doing infrastructure is because, look, let's talk about this. If you watched CNBC yesterday, you saw Mr. Zuckerberg and you saw Tim Cook basically say that within the next 10 years, everything is going to be automated that can be. So anything that anyone can do now, sit behind the desk basically, do retail, be at a McDonald's, all that is going to be automated and done by machines and robots. So at the end of the day, we need to do this. You have a whole bunch of people here at the lower end of the tier who do all that kind of work. We need to retrain those people. Those people need to find new careers. So we need trade schools again. We need to have electricians and people that do basically construction and people that can do data work and sit back and do processing and that kind of thing. And I think that's the real reason for the infrastructure, because we need these people to re-careered, because we need them, and we need them to have a good income. Then you have obviously the middle. Here we are very fortunate because we have a lot of people at the higher end of the tier. So that's why the infrastructure. So I think that that's why you're seeing the stock market stay at 21,004, 21,005. That's why you're seeing things look good. Now I think what I mean by that though is we're just in a holding pattern. And what do I mean by that? I think come September, everybody's going to wait. All the big money people, Wall Street, the economy, because they're saying, we like what you say, but what are you going to do? Get everything done. You have to start doing some of these things that you're saying that you're going to do. Why do I pick September? Because we have a budget that lasts till September, all right? And then in September, there's a new budget, and that's when the big fight is coming. Of who wants what, who doesn't want what, who's going to get what. And I think it's an either-or scenario, and I will just tell you this. I'm an economist by training, and economists know nothing, okay? Here's what I'll tell you about them. They talk in language you can't understand because then you think that they're very intelligent. That's a wonderful thing. And then you know, God, that person, hear what that person said? My God, that was really great. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Let me tell you, the economy is a woman, and she's manipulative. She doesn't care about anything. She'll do what she wants. When she wants to go crazy, she will. When she wants to pull back, she won't. She doesn't care if you like it or you don't like it. So all I can give you is my guesstimate. That's all I can say. And if I'm right, you'll leave here and say, my God, she was a genius. And if I'm not, remember I was on a lot of medication when I came here today. I had a bad back. Okay, so you'll forgive me because I have a bad back. And I wish I could tell you that I had a bad back because I was chasing George Clooney or Brad Pitt. That is not how it happened. It's called old age. Okay, fine. Yeah. So I think we have an either-or scenario, and this is it. Either they're going to get their act together. Now, see, sometimes you can be married, you can hate each other, but with a family business, everybody keeps things going. Sometimes you don't care, you destroy everything. So you have Democrats and Republicans back there, and you know they hate each other, but they've got to get the good of the country going and get some things done. And if they do that, you will begin to see this economy start to move, but very, very slowly. Washington is a big, ugly ship, and it doesn't move very fast. We're not going to go from 1.9 to 3% overnight. We're going to go from 1.9 to maybe 2.1, then maybe 2.4, then maybe 2.6, and that's how it's going to be. If they don't get along and they won't do anything, I think we're going into another recession. But it will be very different here than it would be back in the East Coast. But we will feel it here, we will. Let me talk for a minute about interest rates, because everybody asks about interest rates. Well, Mrs. Yellen, you know, she's in a tough position. She would love to raise interest rates in case the economy goes this way instead of that way, because she has no wiggle room. But this is what's holding everything together. Because what are the three areas that are really booming? Housing is booming, technology is booming, and obviously you have basically healthcare and all of those that are booming. They're all based on leverage, so she's got to keep interest rates low as long as she can, though she'd like to raise them. Obviously, the 10-year this morning was about 2.1. Everybody thought it would be by 3% by now. I think they're going to keep it very low. I think Mrs. Yellen will raise interest rates one more time this year because she's got the opportunity while the stock market is still basically at 21,004. She better do it. But you're going to have low interest rates. You're going to see low mortgage rates. You're going to see them for a long time out because they have to be that way because we're leveraged and everybody around the world is leveraged, and so your interest rates will stay low. Now let me talk for a minute about Silicon Valley. Because see, when we talk about Silicon Valley, I'm going to start in by saying everything that I've just said about Washington, forget it, because it doesn't matter. Washington moves to a different drummer. Silicon Valley doesn't like Washington. They don't care what Washington does, and they're on a different roll. So let's talk about Silicon Valley, and let's talk about the revolution that's occurring there over the last 50 years. Economic revolutions usually happen every 50 years in societies. And it changes the way people live, the way they think, the way they work, and what they want. So if you go back about 50 years, we've always had computers. They were big, big, big ones in the back rooms. But when they started to put them on the desk for people to use, that's when we had the revolution. We had a revolution with the railroads. We had a revolution when people went to the suburbs and when they went to the bases to live in the cities. So at the end of the day, on the big desk it came. Nobody liked it. They were old, they were clunky, they were not efficient, they were slow, they were hard to work. They had to work on them to get them down because they wanted the consumer to get addicted to it because they knew the internet was a good thing. It could fuel the economy, but they had to get everybody to use it. So what did they have to do? They had to make the appliances simpler, faster, quicker, easy to use, and you know when it happened? 10 years ago, one day ago, because that's when you got the iPhone, and that's when the world changed, because then you had an appliance that you could keep with you, you had an appliance that you took every place, instant, on time, and everybody had it, and it did all kinds of things. So now they had the appliance, right? Now you get addicted because they put all the applications on it. Now all the fun things that you want to do. So you can buy, you can sell, you can basically talk to somebody, you can do anything you want on this little tiny appliance that you keep, and basically you go crazy if you put it down and you can't find it. So now, all these companies that started out and basically spread all the money on the wall, some of them actually survived. And so you begin to see the Microsofts and the Googles and the Facebooks and Salesforce.com. And they begin to generate a whole industry called technology that was never there. And at the first part, technology was part of the economy. Today, technology is the economy. You can't do anything in an economy without technology to back it up. Now, what have these firms done over the last decade? Well, they started out by saying, okay, we're going to own certain parts of the world. So if you were Google, you were the search engine and you owned that. If you were Facebook, you owned social media, and that's what you wanted to own. And if you were basically Apple, you owned basically the music world, and you owned the little Mac, whatever. Now what they've done is they're beginning to say, we want to own everything, and we can be everything. So now if you're Google, you can be in movies, you can be in social media, you can be in search, you can be in anything you want. If you're Apple, they own the music world, right? Apple now is getting into the health field. They're going to, excuse me, they're going to create a watch that basically has a diabetic monitor on it, and it will tell you what you need, what you don't need, et cetera, et cetera. They are also getting into something. Can I have that water bottle, please? I'm sorry. Just let me do this one thing. I'm sorry. Hold on.
Everybody drink.
They are also going to get into the heart business with atrial fibrillation. They're going to have something that monitors it. It tells you when your heart is beating correctly, when it's not. So they're going into a whole different thing. Do you know that basically Apple also owns a company in China called Didi, which is a driving company with drivers? Everybody says, why would they want to get in the driving business? Because they bring their iPhone 7 there, it's expensive, and what they say is if you would like to have a driver come to your house and pick you up in China, you have to use an iPhone 7 because they own that company. If you basically now are Facebook, they have all kinds of applications now. They have one that duplicates Snap. They're going to go into the movie business also. If you go into Yahoo, Time, AT&T basically bought that, so you know that they're going to go into the sports and all of that kinds of businesses. So when you look at technology and you look at Silicon Valley, they're not basically restricted to, oh, it's just technology. They own the world and every single part of it. So let's talk about the kind of money they have and why they grew at 7% GDP last year. Now, we just said the nation grew at 1.9%. They grew at 7%. That's why it feels good here. That's why you have the real estate markets you have. That's why everybody here is doing pretty well. Well, here's what we know. If you look at an Apple, they have $30 billion sitting here in Silicon Valley and $230 billion abroad. If you look at a Google and a Facebook, they each have $60 billion sitting here, and they have $260 billion sitting abroad. When you have that kind of money, you can do anything you want, okay? You can buy companies, you can issue stock, you can take your stock and divide it in half, you can do mergers, acquisitions, you can hire people, you can keep them during a recession, you can do whatever you want. So we have a lot of cash sitting in Silicon Valley to help us if we go into a recession to pull us through. The second thing is, there weren't a lot of IPOs last year, but there are going to be 38 this year, and 12 of them are coming out of the Valley. Now, the interesting thing about this is, you have the first one, which was Snap, $22 billion, went up 44% the first day. Do you know that Snap has never been profitable? Never, ever. And in their prospectus, they say they may not be profitable and they don't care. The 12 companies that are coming public, that are coming onto Wall Street now, are not any of them profitable, which is magical. Okay, what happened here? When you go to Wall Street, you have to be profitable. Otherwise, you can't go public, right? Here's why. They view technology companies in a different way. The value of a technology company is based on how many eyeballs come in, how long they stay, what kind of data they get, and what they can do with that data. So you have 12 coming that'll probably bring $1 trillion into our economy here in Silicon Valley. Then you have investors. Let's talk about Mr. Ma, who owns Alibaba, the China company, right? He's coming. He said within a decade he will have 1 million people working in the United States of America because he's going to take on Amazon, the big papa and mama. Then you have Mr. Sun, who owns a company called SoftBank, and he owns 70% of Sprint, which is the telephone company. And he said that he basically now is going to invest $60 billion in American companies. And they laughed and asked him, because he was just on CNBC talking about Sprint, and they said to him, "You're not number one at Sprint." He said, "Well, don't worry about that, because I just spent $3 billion buying Spectrum, more airwaves," he said, "and I just have 1 million more customers than I had last quarter." And they said to him, "Yes, but you bought all those people." And he said, "Yes, I did, and I don't care," because he says, "I will be number one because I'm always number one in every company that I own." So the thinking has totally changed down there. You get what I'm saying. They're very entrepreneurial, they're very risk adverse, they're very creative, and they do what they want to do. Now let me talk about Amazon.com. $1,000 a share over in the stock market, right? And what is Amazon.com doing? Well, Amazon.com was a place where you went and bought and sold things, right? Well, now you have Echo, right? And you have Alexa, and you say, "Hello, Alexa, good morning." And you know what you say to her? "Alexa, I know Amazon.com is now going into retail business, so goodbye Macy's," right? They're going into women's, men, and children's clothes. And you're going to say to Alexa, "Alexa, can you take a picture of me?" And she'll say, "Yes, I can." And then you're going to go into Amazon.com. You're going to see an outfit that you like. You're going to put that on you in the camera, turn it around, and you can see every side of it. They're also going into the $300 billion drug business because they said they can do better than Walgreens and CVS. Oh, and by the way, they just spent $2.7 billion buying Whole Foods, you know that. Now, why did they do that? Well, see, they've been in the food business for a while. Food is a perishable item, so you have to be able to deliver it quickly, and you can't leave it someplace 5 hours. So they needed a footprint where they had warehousing and stores close to the areas that they want to deliver to. So they wanted the footprint, that gave them that. But you know what they really want to do? Amazon.com wants to upscale itself. And they wanted to get a brand that was more upscale. And Whole Foods is an upscale brand with all the young millennials that go there that buy the organics and the green stuff, and that's what they want them to do. So when I talk about Silicon Valley, you can see that it is a magical place. And everything about valuation, how the economy works, how Wall Street judges companies, it doesn't work in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley changed everything. The valuation system there is very different. Now let's talk for a minute about the people that work there, okay, and what they're doing. These companies know that we have some problems here with affordability and getting people into houses and things like that. So what do you think they're doing? The cities can't afford to do anything. So when you look at a company like Apple, they just basically opened a big center. It's called a city within a city in Cupertino, because that's what they do. When they go out, they don't buy an office building. They buy land, 40, 50, 60 acres of land. And then they build a whole community there. So you have Apple with the big spaceship that they just built, that basically is a community. There's retail there, there's going to be homes there, there's going to be condos there, there's all kinds of things there. Facebook just bought 63 acres in Menlo Park. Now what are they going to do there? They're going to build a big complex there, 1,500 homes, of which 20% will be dedicated to low-cost living, 500 apartments that they're giving for 5 years rent-free to firemen, police, and teachers. So Google's now going to Marin, going to do the same thing. So they have the money to do it. They have the money to help with affordability and to help with housing where people can't get it because they can't afford it because they've been priced out of the market. They understand and know that. Now let's talk about the people that work there. Obviously, when you work in Silicon Valley, it's a tough place to work, I'll tell you that, because it's dog eat dog and they eat their young. So here we have a lot of millennials, and they love to work in Silicon Valley. And a lot of you here are millennials, so I'm not insulting you, I'm just telling you the way it is. You were born and you were perfect. And your mothers and fathers were helicopter parents, and then they basically mother coddled you. And you know, they told you you were perfect, you were beautiful, you were wonderful, you were entitled to everything, they were gonna help you go to college, they'll help you with everything. The world was yours, it was an oyster, you knew everything, it was perfect. Okay, fine. That's wonderful, and that's the way it was. Because of that, you're socially conscious, you love to want to save the planet, you're into greening. That's all good things, and we all love you for that. Now you grow up and you get a job, and many of you go to Silicon Valley, okay? Once you get to Silicon Valley, the whole world changes for you, because it's dog eat dog there. You're only as good as your last success. The guy next to you wants your job. Basically, you're going to be there. If you're there more than 3 years and you haven't been promoted, they flag you as a loser. So you need to move up the scale. And I'm not kidding, because believe me, that's exactly the way it is. That's exactly the way it is. Everybody there works with headhunters, and the headhunters know, they know who to call. If you are a star, they will call you constantly. You stay in a place and you're not promoted 3 years, you are branded as a loser, believe me. So we've got those two elements going, and that's the way that Silicon Valley works. So now Silicon Valley drives, we know, the economy, because you have to have a good economy in order to have a good real estate market. So we have a good real estate market, yes we do. Now let's take the real estate market and let's talk about that. First of all, I want to hit some things that people talk about in this real estate market that don't know San Francisco and don't know the Bay Area. The first thing I always hear from everything is there's nothing affordable in the San Francisco Bay Area. I hear that constantly from people when I do interviews. And you know what I say to them? The thing that drives me crazy about the media is that they put all these tags on things, you know, like it's overvalued, it's a bubble, etc. And they do it on everything, all right? And they don't understand that we have many, many markets under the San Francisco Bay Area. We have 7 counties. They're not all valued the same, and they all work differently. So if you take San Francisco, which is the mama papa, that is expensive. Okay, fine. It's about $1,300 a square foot. But if you take San Francisco and you consider it an international city, which it really is, because we are known around the world. We have Stanford and Cal, gateway to the Pacific Rim. We are culturally diverse, employment diverse, and you can go almost anywhere in 3 hours and find the sun, the beach, whatever. So this is an international city. So if you compare it, we have to compare it to other international cities. We are not even expensive. We don't even make the top 10. The most expensive place in the world is in Beijing at a place called the Peak. It is $13,000 a square foot, followed by Rome, Paris, London, Sydney, Australia, etc. So we're about 7 or 8 on the list. But we'll say it's expensive, okay? You have to have a good income in order to live in San Francisco. But you can start to go outside of San Francisco and move to the suburbs and the experts, and pretty soon you will find out that you can find something for $200 to $300 a square foot. Now you have to travel, right? But we have BART, and BART goes to many of those places. So when you say there's nothing affordable in the San Francisco Bay Area, you have to say what you can afford and what your income is, because that determines where you can live. The second thing that people always tell me is, well, everything's overvalued here, because we see these prices that people pay for these things, and everything is overvalued. So I say to them, let's define what overvalued means. If something is overvalued, you usually have too much of it, you price it, nobody wants it, you put a price down because you have to discount it, and they still don't want it, right? Because they didn't consider it valuable. So let's go ahead and look at real estate in the San Francisco Bay Area. We don't have any, right? Everybody wants it, they're all running for it, people are paying over what it's listed for. In fact, they outrageous prices for what we put on our properties, right? So how can it be overvalued? It's valuable. Yes, it is. The next question that I always get is this a good time to buy real estate? Oh my God, here we go. Okay, it's always a good time to buy real estate. It's probably the best investment of your life, and I'm going to tell you why. Real estate builds wealth. There's the key. It is one of the few assets that we have out there that, because the government has determined that it's the American dream, that they give you the most beneficial tax benefits and help you build wealth through real estate. Now let's walk through that scenario. Let's say that you go out and you bought a home, and you bought that home in 2002. And you know that interest rates at that time were around 7%, all right? And let's say that your payment to the bank was $4,000 a month, all right? And when you made that payment to the bank, 9% went to your side of the circle, because that's the equity that you would get. And the rest all went to the bank. Now let's fast forward to today. You're only paying 4.5% for the money. So that's $600,000. The first thing that happened to you is you're paying $1,000 less in that loan. It's only $3,000. So you have money there that you can save or basically spend. When you make that payment to the bank, 27% now goes on your side of the ledger. So you're gaining wealth faster and you're getting equity. But the biggest things are, when you buy a home, you get in now at very low interest rates. What a gift the government has given us. When you live there, you get to deduct interest. The government allows you up to $1.1 million. And if you live there for a period of time, you know that you get $200,000 or $500,000 if you sell it, and you get to walk away tax-free with no gain at all, or with a gain, all right? Now let's compare that to renting. Here you are, and you're going to rent for 3 years. And in San Francisco, what does that cost you? $3,000 to $4,000 a month? You're not even getting a great place at that rate, right? So you spend $100,000, and 3 years later, what do you have? You have nothing. You got to go and renew the lease. You're at the mercy of the landlord. You're not going to be able to do what you want, and you've got all that money, all those checks, throw them in the garbage. Over here, somebody puts some money down, and I love it when we call that, oh, down payment, my God. It's not a down payment. It's an investment in some equity. You're buying something. Now you're an owner. You put your footprint into owning something. So it isn't a down payment. It's an investment in an asset that's going to build wealth for you. Now you live there the same 3 years. Maybe your mortgage payment is the same as the rent. Maybe it's a little more, maybe it's a little less. But you know what? You get to deduct your interest. You get to deduct your property taxes. And in 2 or 5 years, you get to walk away, and you're going to have a gain which you would take with you to buy the next real estate purchase. So at the end of the day, I don't know how people can say, I don't want to own real estate. I think real estate is a path to wealth. And if you look at the Forbes 400 every year of the richest people in the world, you will see that 80% of them have made their money through real estate. because of so many of the advantages, because so much of the taxes that we can get and the benefits that you get, it absolutely has to be something. And if you're really smart, here's what you do. You don't buy the most expensive thing. Buy the one property that you can get into. Live in that for a while, then sell it. Or if you sell it, don't put somebody else in it, then you move out, and that's what you do. And you ladder it, and you start to build the next real estate purchase, and the next one, and the next one, and then real estate starts to work for you. And in a decade, you could have 4 or 5 pieces of property that work for you, and that's really a good thing. Now let's talk about San Francisco real estate, because I think that's the one that you really want to talk about. I think that we have in San Francisco a real estate market that's unbelievable. I think I gave you a handout, each of you have, it's the first one. And I have it too, but I don't know what I did with it. And at the end of the day, Randy, get me another one. Thank you. At the end of the day, this is just going to show you what real estate has done. Now, when you look at this, I would ask you to look at the second column, because that second column shows you from April to just through June, the appreciation in the various counties of San Francisco Bay Area. Look at them, 22%. 25%. Look at Napa, 40% appreciation in just 2 or 3 months. That is unbelievable, all right? Now, if you look at the median price of homes, we go from basically the low of 300,000, so see there are affordable places in Solano, way up to San Francisco, which is $1.2 million now. So now you can see we have a very varied real estate market. Now let's talk about what markets we have. And I'm going to do entry, middle tier, and sort of high end. Now let me talk about the entry market, because a lot of you may be interested in that. And here's the reason why you need to understand the entry market. Because the entry market is different than other markets. It's not a negotiating market. It's a competitive market. What do I mean by that? I mean that you have to get in quickly, you have to make a decision, you have to buy, and you probably have to be the best offer at the table. Those are the things that you need to understand before you even go there. So the first thing is, where are we going to look? And what can you afford? Because if you can afford $700,000 or $800,000, you're probably not going to find something at $800,000. You're going to probably have to look at the $600,000 range, because everything else is going to go up. That's number one. Number two, you have to be ready, willing, and able. What do I mean by that? I mean by that, it used to be that you could go out, shop, think about it, look, come back, get a loan, spend 30 days working through the loan process. You can't do that in this market today. In the entry market, you have to go out at 8 o'clock in the morning and be willing to write an offer at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now that's the way it is. The other thing is you're going to go out and you're going to see all these prices that are listed on these properties. They are not good pricing. It's just a teaser rate, it's just a number. So they will list something at $799, and it never will sell for $799, because if you look at the statistics are already $1 million. So you know that that house is going to go over $1 million, but they've done that. Why? Because they want to get a lot of people to come out with a lot of offers, and then they have a competition going. Now you've gone through the process. You've gone out, you've looked, let's say you find something you like. Now you're going to go from a competition into what I call a war zone, because that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, why do I say that? Because 57% of every single property in the entry market is all cash. Now, do you understand what that means? All cash, 10-day close, no contingencies, all right? So here you are now, and the first thing in the first leap you have to make is we have to look at the price. Let's say the price was basically $700,000. That's not correct. So we know that the first lead, before you even make an offer, you got to get from $700,000 to market. And we just told you that the market now, let's just say it was $800,000, all right? So now you have to be willing to say, all right, we start at $800,000. The next leap is it going to be multiple buyers? Because if it's going to be multiple buyers, $800,000 isn't going to make it. Well, how do we know how many buyers? Well, we're going to look at the last one that they basically sold, and we know that there were 12 offers, let's say, on that property. So one bought it, maybe 2 or 3 backed out of the market. That still leaves like 8 that don't want to bid on this property. So now you're against 8 people. So now what you have to do is you have to look at the condition of the house, the location, how much other property is out there in competition with you, and how many buyers are coming in. And that's going to determine how much over $800,000 you have to go. And I will tell you, in this market, An $800,000 house will probably go in the high nines. That's exactly what's going to happen. Let me give you some examples. There was a home in Ingleside Terrace, you know where that is, I guess. Nice home with a backyard detached, kind of unusual in San Francisco. And they had basically a downstairs that was all built for an in-law unit. It was an older home, nicely done. They listed it for $899,000 when every stat showed $1.2 million. They had 70 foreclosure packages that went out, and basically they had 36 offers on this house. This house went for $1.7 million. Now that's not good real estate, I will tell you that, because it makes buyers very unhappy and it makes sellers have expectations they shouldn't. But that's the market you're working in. There was another one on Harrison Street at $799,000 that went for $1.2 million. So I'm saying this, the entry market is difficult. That's why you need Kevin. See, everybody. That's true. I'm going to tell you that's true. Because I hear people tell me all the time, oh, I can go to Redfin and pay 1%. Good, go to Redfin and pay 1%. Oh, I can go online and they'll do everything for me. Good, do that. But don't you understand? Real estate at this level, at this valuation, you need somebody who's networked. You need somebody who knows the agent community. You need somebody who knows every neighborhood, who knows what's on the market, who knows what's not on the market but coming on the market, who knows why this house is better than that house. That is the most valuable thing to you, not to go to Redfin, a 1% agent. Guess what? That 1% agent has been in the business 3 days. They don't know anything. They're doing processing in the back room. 5 months from now, when you have a problem and you go back, that person won't be there because they were a 1% agent and you can't make a living being a 1% agent. So to me, real estate here is golden. I don't worry about real estate. You shouldn't worry about it. Real estate here is absolutely golden and will continue to be golden. The process, how you buy it, who you work with, to me, is the most important thing, because you have to make sure that you're getting the value that you want or value that will accumulate in time. Because in the entry market, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to pay more than it's going to appraise at. You can get 15 appraisals, use them in your bathroom because that's where you can put them. But then that's not going to mean anything. You can get all kinds of statistics and comps, and they're not going to be reliable or valuable. But here's what you're going to have to do. You need to work with somebody who understands you're going to be paying for value today that you're going to get tomorrow. Now, how do I know that there's going to be value tomorrow in the entry market? I know that because we don't have any of it, right? We basically have more people coming. Do you know that by 2040, there's going to be 2 million more people in California and 1 million more people with jobs? How many of you people here were born here in California? Okay, how many come from someplace else? Aha, all of you that come from someplace else, would you like to go back? No. Am I missing that? So at the end of the day, the value you're going to get tomorrow is there already. Do you see what I'm saying? We know that that's going to happen in the entry market in San Francisco, California. That's not going to happen in Fargo, North Dakota. It's not going to happen in Weatherford, Texas, but we're not in Weatherford, Texas, and we're not in Fargo, North Dakota. And if you want to go there, good luck to you, because it's too hot in the summer and too cold in the winter, and you got to fly Ozark Airlines to land any place. Okay. So your entry market basically works like that. Now, is it going to continue? I don't like to see pricing like that. I like to see pricing where they put it a little bit below the market, and within 10-15% you can get it. I think it's going to be a short-term live for that market in that way, because I think buyers and sellers won't like that. But that's your entry market, and that's how it is. Do I think it's scary to go into the entry market? No, I don't. Because I think at the end of time, you're buying value, as I said, that you will get. I absolutely believe you will get it. Now let me talk a minute about the middle tier. Now see, when I talk middle tier here, you're talking like 3 to 5 million. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's probably what you're talking if you're in San Francisco, if you're in San Mateo, if you're based in Marin. But now if you went to Concord or Hayward or Richmond, those are the areas people should be looking at. If you want to know where the really hot entry markets are, let's talk about that. You have entry markets, not money in San Francisco, obviously, but you have some. But you can go basically to Concord, Hayward, Antioch, you can go to Alameda, you can go to Fremont, you can go to Pleasanton, you can go up to Santa Rosa, you can go to Rohnert Park, you can go to all those San Francisco, you can go to all those places out there, and they're pretty decently priced if you want to look at that. Now, the middle tier, when you start here, you know you've got the middle tier. I think Noe Valley, the Castro, you got South of Market, you got all those areas that people love, the Intermission, those are all very hot and trendy, and all you millennials love those areas. You love anything that's funky. You like it all the time, going 24 hours a day. You like a mix of people. You like old people, people with babies, tattoo people, people riding motorcycles, exotic foods. You like tattoo parlors. You like the spas where cooking, everything. You like all of that. Because you live in houses, but basically your neighborhoods are where you have your lifestyle and your friends, and that's what you like to do, and we know that, and that's fine. So the middle tier is a little bit different. In the middle tier, what we see is people that have a little bit of money now, because you have to have more money to get into that $3 million area. And they're very fussy. They're a lot more fussy than the people that are just getting in, because people that are just getting in will take what they can get. But here's what really sells in the middle tier. We find that they will buy a home that basically is a real fixer-upper because it gets them into the zip code that they want. Then they will destroy that house, and they will redo it. They don't like anything in the middle, then they like the high end of that area, of that market, because that means that they're a star. So you see that they basically have very defined tastes. And here's the difference in real estate from today than I think 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you went down to a real estate agent, they showed you an area, they worked with you, you defined a price, and they basically led you to where you wanted to go. Let me tell you what's different in real estate today. Real estate agents can do all of that work, but it is the buyer that defines what they want. You young millennials decide what you want. You decide if you want that house and you don't want that house. You come with your friends and you like this house, but you don't like that house. And you want, when they say updated, you know what you want. You don't like hardwood floors and marble and the ornate things. You want gray, you want steel, glass, you want copper pots, you want cement for your sinks. You know what you want, and that's a good thing, because that's exactly what you want, and that's exactly what you want to have, and you will have. I think the big change, and I keep talking about value, and I want to go back to that. I think the biggest change in the world today is that value. We talked about it, remember, on Wall Street. Did I not say that you don't have to be profitable to be a billion-dollar company? Imagine that. That's a change in how we value things. Come down to real estate. There's a change in how you value things. Because look at these millennials that are paying $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 over for property that their parents never would have probably done that, because they value it differently. And then what do? You buy one house here, and then you buy a second house up in Napa or Sonoma, because that's where you all want to go. Healdsburg, right? And then you go there in the summer, and then you rent it out Airbnb, and that's how you pay for the second home. We know the model. That their parents never were smart enough to think of that. So at the end of the day, what we value, how we value it, and the process of valuation has totally changed in the United States of America. And you know what? It goes all the way up to the White House, because look at the president that we elected. He is not like any other president, correct, that we've ever had. So at the end of the day, you have entry, you have middle tier, you have the high end. Very interesting at the high end, let me tell you. I'll give you a very typical example. There was a parcel that went up in Hillsborough, California. Now that's considered usually a high-end area. It is not high-end anymore. I tell you, it's middle class, believe me. Nobody wants to be middle class, all right? They put this parcel up in Hillsborough, and it's put up for $100 million. It's 43 acres. The house is terrible, but they would tear down the house anyway. So all the big tech people come up to see it, right? 100 acres, a sanctuary, absolutely beautiful. They all look at it and they all say, it's beautiful, but I could never live here. Why can't you live here? Because it's 43 acres, no one will even know you're here. Because this is where doctors, lawyers, and middle technology people live, and we don't live here. Well, where do you live? They live in Atherton and Woodside. That's where they live. That's where they live at $25 million an entry price. That's where all the techies and the billionaires want to go. So Hillsborough, that's where all the doctors and lawyers are. It's expensive there, it's $3 million to get in, but at the end of the day, you won't find any high-tech people living there, because that isn't where they go. So we can see now that real estate has changed, all right? It's not only entry, middle, and high end. You have pockets of people based on their careers, their income, and their power, They live in certain areas, and other areas they won't touch with a tadpole, okay? We used to be in America what I would call a melting pot. You put everybody in, you stir it around, and it came out. Today, I think America is like a salad bowl. You put a lot of things in, but you can still see what they are, and they retain their own flavor, and they're wonderful and they're tasteful, but that's the salad that you get, right? So at the end of the day, I think that's what we've become, a salad bowl, much more than a melting pot. Now, what do I think about real estate? I think real estate is golden here. I think rents have probably stabilized. I think now let's talk a little bit about investment real estate. Hard to find, but I think anything in warehousing, anything in storage facilities, raw land is very valuable because we are going to continue to develop out. I love mobile home parks, you know, trailer trash. I think they're wonderful because you have very low maintenance there, and one day somebody's going to come along and say to you, we need that land, get the hell rid of the mobile home park, bye-bye, and they're going to put something up. So I like mobile home parks. I like basically farms. I like wineries. I like anything like that. I also like anything that's a duplex, a condo, anything that's apartment buildings, I like that. What I don't like are old-fashioned office buildings, because you kids won't work in those old-fashioned, well, you know that. You want to work in a WeWork, where they have all kinds of things you can play, and where you go, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So at the end of the day, anybody that has an office building on 101 is in big trouble. So all of these people, and there's the two families, the Sobrato family and the Agiagi family, that own most of 101. And they're going to have to redo all those office spaces. What's going to happen to the malls? Everyone says to me, oh my God, they're all going out of business. No, they're not. They're going to redo them. You know that. You won't go to a mall to shop, but you will go to a mall if you can be entertained. You will go to the mall if it's a razor store and they have 85 big TV screens and you can play games with somebody in Singapore. You will go there if you can cook. You will go there to get your hair done and your face done. You will go there to taste all the perfumes and fragrances around. You will do that. So the malls will become places of entertainment. You will not go there to shop, but you will go there to be entertained. So at the end of the day, it's an amazing world because I think it's changed. And here, I think that San Francisco got it right, okay? For all the things that we fight and all the crap we have to deal with too, I think San Francisco got it right. Because this is an exciting city where millennials want to live. I think that the technology companies are going to help us with affordability and all the problems that we have. So I think real estate here is golden. I will tell you again what I need to say. Go and buy real estate, but buy it from the right person. Okay? And I believe that. Look, I don't come here because I have to. I don't come here because I need to. I'm really old, you know, I can tell you that. I am really, 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 really old. And at the end of the day, I only do this because I like to do it. And I want to tell you one thing. I never do events like this. I never do them. And when Kevin called Susan, who's the lady that is my scheduler, right? She called me and she said, Kevin called, and I said, okay. And she said, you know, Carole, he would really want you on a Sunday. And I said, I'm not doing a Sunday, late at night now. Well, he is willing to do a lunch. And I said, okay, I'll come. Because I don't do these, believe me. I used to do them. I used to do 4 and 5 in a day at a time, and I don't do them. So you're in very good hands, and you should realize that somebody that can guide you through the process of real estate, because it's complicated. It is basically interesting, but we don't want you to make any mistakes. We want you at the end of the day to say that you built wealth through real estate. So that's what I think about real estate and everything, and I want to answer questions now. So come on, answer.
First of all, thank you.
Ask me some questions. Come on, give me some questions. Somebody's got a question. Come on. Oh, come on. Somebody's got a question. Get a question. Let's ask some questions.
Carole, this is really, really helpful. So my question is around any, I guess, the flavor of the month has been cybersecurity threats, right?
Has been what?
Cybersecurity.
Okay, yes.
So what's your thought in how that could be an emerging, I would say, industry, and is there going to be a cause and effect to our local economy just because of how technology is driven?
Okay, I think cybersecurity, you're right, is number one, and I think it's just building and blooming and blossoming, and I think they're just going to go. I think it's going to go through the roof. That's what I think. I can tell you one thing that I know. One thing that's happening in real estate, they have now wire fraud going on, and let me tell you what they do. This is unbelievable. And so cybersecurity now, big time there. They're all spending big money, but it's going to be in every single little thing that we can think about. The title companies have a lot of their own banks. So let's take the First American Title. You will always see First American Title Bank, and that's where your money should be wired. What these people are doing, they're very clever. They get in and they become you, all right? And then they change First American, they'll change an M to an N, and they'll send a note to the buyer, and they'll say to the buyer, there's been a change where you're supposed to wire your money. Could you wire your money here instead of there? And a lot of people have fallen for that, and they've had a lot of troubles. So now what they're doing is they're encrypting everything. They're saying, we will not accept anything, basically a change, unless you come in person and do it, and that they will not basically take anything and send it unless they know that it's going to the right person. I think that when I talk about technology, I think we're just in the beginning. Think about health and what's going to happen to it. Think about what they're going to do with your health and all the technology. Think of what they're going to do not only with cybersecurity, tech, health, what they're going to do with all kinds of things and information, what they're going to do with DNA and all those kinds of things. We're just at the beginning. Don't you think? I think. Okay, somebody else has a question. Come on. Yes.
I'm not Congress, so I'm very. Thank you very much for a very nice talk. Oh, so it's okay. It's on, I think. So yeah, it's on. Yes. So I have a question. You have mentioned that the real estate is golden, and especially in the area. What do you think about the impact of the homeless problem and also the security problem? I mean the cybersecurity, but really increasingly in the last year, that the security problem has been a concern. So in terms of in a smaller pocket area, I don't mean like the whole United States or the whole Bay Area. I think that the Bay Area itself is also seeing this problem even in Fremont right now.
Yes,
so what do you think about that?
I think it's a terrible problem. I do. I think homeless is a terrible problem. I think I think that this is what is going to happen. I think that basically you just found out yesterday that sanctuary cities are not going to be funded by the federal government. That's going to hit San Francisco big time because they're not going to get a lot of money. I think they're going to either have to adjust to that or they're going to have to say they're not going to be a sanctuary city. Homeless is a problem, all right? And I think eventually, here's how you cure a homeless problem. You elect people who would like to delete that problem from your area. That's how you handle that problem. I think that's the only way you do it. You have to put the people in charge who want to say, look, we are very sympathetic to these people, we want to help them, but we don't want them on our streets and we don't want them living in camps. That's it. That's the way you have to handle it. I don't know any other way to do it. You elect people that will vote for that. Any other questions? Yes.
Just wanted to ask your thoughts on your bullish position on real estate investment and the environment for like rent control and different sort of regulations that can temper.
Listen, that's a wonderful thing you asked. Thank you for that question. I'll tell you what my family does and what we do. We own a lot of property in San Francisco, all right, even though there's rent control here. And the rent control here is terrible, I'll tell you. You know, we fight the rent control board all the time, and you always lose. It doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, you're not going to get rid of rent control because it's going all up and down the peninsulas and almost over every county, all right? The reason why rent control and you can live here and still survive is because it's so desirable an area and it's so valuable an area. Usually where rent control goes, you see everything go down in value and you see ghettos being created. But here, everything still goes up in value, so that basically makes it managed. Now let me talk about investing in real estate. Let me talk about 2 apartment buildings that we own and why we own them. When we came into this area, the first apartment building that we bought, everybody said, oh no, you're paying too much and you shouldn't buy a building like that. But I saw a building where there were basically young people living very close to Union and Chestnut Streets, if you know where I'm talking about. And basically the art there was that basically young people don't stay long, you know that. They're there for a year and a half, right? So you buy buildings like that for that reason, because then you can get them up to market all the time, because they move out. And usually, you know what happens? They have a friend that moves in right behind them. That's what happens. And in this building that we have, a magical thing happened. All the technology companies rent these apartments for people that come in that are doing projects for them or that are working there for 6 months. And they pay a year in advance and they don't even care. And then they call you up and say, can you bring fruit in or something to make them feel at home and know, like, hello, how, blah, blah. So that's one building. Another building that we bought was in Pacific Heights, all right? And that building has 2 people living in it that are paying $800 a month for apartments that are renting for $4,000 a month. Now, why would you buy that? Because of appreciation, all right? Because we know that that building has appreciated. They will someday die. I'll die before them, but the kids will enjoy it, all right? So at least somebody will get it. And these stupid people send me Christmas cards, really irritates me every year. Really irritates me every year. I want you to know that. And I get this Christmas, and I hate them, I said, oh my God, this is what you, oh, thank you, and we love you. Yeah, right. I love myself at $800 a month, doing it. Okay. So at the end of the day, if you're going to invest, here's what I think. The A locations, you're going to pay a premium, okay? That's the San Francisco area. I like B locations, and I'll tell you why. B locations are the next down. The ones that are going to be redeveloped, the areas that are, you can see that the towns are going to be redeveloping there, because there's you're going to have the most appreciation. There you're going to have a really good thing. So let me give you an example. Look at East Palo Alto. Used to be the crime area of the world. Go down there now. Do you know that houses are there for $1 million? People you could have bought land cheap there. I bought a house in Oakland for $19,000 7 years ago. Because that was when everything went in the toilet. I bought all these terrible properties, foreclosures, right? In areas that you wouldn't go in. I never went and even looked at them because they were all terrible. I mean, I was afraid to go there. But I had somebody who was doing that as a business. They were the best in the nation. They had, and I'll tell you what you needed, they had access to the people that were holding those homes that the banks gave them to. That's what you need. And he knew the right ones to take and pick. So that's what you need to do. Also, I think you need to look at this. If you go to a B location, there are several around. Then go out to the experts and go even to the C locations, because those are the ones that if you're patient and you wait 5 or 6 years or a decade, those are the ones that will bloom and blossom for you. So when you get in the investing business, it works a little different. Instead of entry and middle and high, I put them A, B, and C locations, and I love the B locations. All right. I'll tell you a story if you want to hear a story. Do you have a minute?
Sure.
I'll tell you a story. Okay. This is about a shopping center in Saratoga, California. Now, Saratoga, California is considered a high-end area, okay? And I will tell you that my family owns this, all right? So I don't want to make you think that I'm giving you a story here. This shopping center in Saratoga is 8 acres of land, all right? And it was owned by a gentleman who was a big farmer. And I sat on the board of the University of Santa Clara with him, and he was dying of cancer, and he wanted to sell it. And he tried to sell it, and he couldn't sell it to anybody because it was so run down. It was an embarrassment, all right? And besides the shopping center, across the street, he owned a gas station, which nobody wanted to buy because, everybody's afraid of gas stations, all right? So he came to me, and we decided as a family that we would buy this, all right? So we bought this shopping center, and we knew it had to be redone, and we had to get rid of all the people that were there because, you have the favorite nail store and the barber and the favorite, whatever. Okay, fine. So we started with the city of Saratoga, which was a nightmare, believe me. 18 months with the city of Saratoga, giving us hell on everything we wanted to do. And in the meantime, we have the people of Saratoga all complaining because they have to go there. So here's the deal of why we bought it. We bought it because there was a Safeway store, all right, on one end of the shopping center, and there was a Rite Aid on the other side of the shopping center, and we got this piece of land that was sitting there, but we had to have all redone by Standard Oil, and we finally, after 3 years, got it all re-identified and all cleaned, all right. So now we're ready to go, okay. So now we go basically, and we go to Safeway, and we say to Safeway, you have a lease, but you want to have more space. So therefore, we want to renegotiate our lease. Then we go over to the drugstore, and they want to do the same thing. They want to enlarge their space, so we want a new lease. Now we have hell, because Safeway says they're not going to do anything. They're only going to give us the same amount of rent that they're paying, but they will want more space. So now, in the meantime, we're moving everybody out, all right? And all of a sudden, everybody comes to us from the city, and they say, well, we still want the barber shop, and we still want the cleaners, and we still want this, that, and whatever. So we go to the city and we say, okay, we will do that. Give us a permit that allows us to have extra parking, and we'll put all these people along the side, okay? So now they give us an exemption in parking, which we liked a lot. And we got all these little people on the side, so they're happy. Now we can start with Safeway and Rite Aid, right? Now we come to the city, and the city says to us, you know, we don't like it that we have this shopping center and a vacant lot on the other side of the street. So why don't you build something on the other side of the street, and we'll let you build there, and all we want you to do is keep the landscaping all in place, and we'll let you build something there. And you know what else we want? We want another building on the other side in the corner of the shopping center that matches that one. So now we get the spare one we get to build on, and there was a vacancy, all here was built, but there was nothing here. Now we get to build another parcel. So now we'll be another couple of $1 million worth of value because we get to put a building here too. So we get a shopping center, building here, and a building there. Now Safeway starts in on us, okay? Now, Safeway starts in, and the attorneys are working for 18 months to get Safeway to agree, all right? So I'm gonna tell you exactly what I did, all right? And this is exactly what I did. I said to these very high-priced attorneys, I'm going over to Safeway, all right? They're gonna talk to me. All of these lawyers come in and they're great, and they give me the whole thing, and I say to them, you're absolutely right. There's nothing in this contract that I can do to make you pay a different form of rent. But this is what I can do. The clock starts ticking today. You got 3 more years on your lease. Pack it up, because Safeway is leaving, and you will never, ever, as long as I live, put a Safeway sign on this shopping center, because I will put it in my will that I will go to any other grocery store, but you will never have the advantage of doing that. And at my age, I feel telling everybody what you did to me. All right. What they did is they renegotiated their lease. And they signed a 50-year lease. Now listen to me, because this is how you make money in investing. 50 years. Now Rite Aid found out, and they did the same thing. Now we had a 50-year lease to take to the bank. That's what you want. In the meantime, we're filling in the shopping center with basically Starbucks, Citibank, Co-America Bank. We have Wells Fargo there. We have PetSmart there. You understand what I'm saying to you? Now, the beauty of that was this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We paid $11 million for this shopping center in its bad shape. When it was assessed, okay, it's assessed now at almost $40 million. Do you understand what I'm telling you? And a family did that. Because, wait, it gets better. When we basically got the loan, we did the reconstruction loan. When we got the real loan, we had put money to buy it. On the $11 million, we had put in about $3 million, okay, to buy it and to carry it. When we got the loan, the original loan that kept it after it was redone, guess what we did? We took our $3 million back. So at the end of the day, we bought a shopping center, put $3 million of our money into it, and at the end of the day, took it back. So we bought it for nothing. And now it's worth $40 million. I'll tell you the problem with it. It's at its height. We try to 1031 it all the time to find something that we can exchange that would be better, but we can't. And a family did that. That's the magic of real estate. Now they're hard to find, but you gotta go through hell to do that. But you gotta be willing to do that. You have to go through hell with the cities. You have to have enough money to sustain yourself. And you have to have enough money to say to somebody, get the hell out if you don't buy, because I'll take it myself. You gotta be able to do that. But a group of you could get together and you could do that. Kevin can do that for you. I know he can. Kevin would get, no, I know Kevin, and I know how creative and entrepreneurial he is. And if a bunch of you, 5 or 6 of you got together and put up a couple of $1 million and said to Kevin, go find us something, he will go find you something. I know Kevin, and I know he will do that. And that's what you should do. 5 or 6 of you get together, throw a little money in a pot, and go find something wonderful. Because it will reward you in the end. Okay, does that tell you about investing?
Yeah.
All right, any more questions? Yes, sir.
Got a few more here. Noah and Sophie.
Carol, thank you. Question on the Fed move earlier this month. They raised the rates, short-term rates, long-term rates actually came in
Yes.
a bit. So we're kind of seeing a flattening of the yield curve, which is generally an indication of an oncoming recession of some sort. What is your thoughts here of where we're headed?
I gave you the either or, right? I told you, I think we're gonna know by September, the end of the year. If they get together and start to do something here, then we'll be fine. If not, we are going into a recession. But what's the recession here? We did 8% GDP growth this first quarter. So we'll probably go down to 4, maybe 3%. It will still be positive here. The nation will have it could go into a recession, yes. But I think here, we will survive. It'll be a recession, yeah, we're gonna feel it, yeah, things will go down a little bit, but we will survive here because we're in a better place, we're starting in a much higher point. But yes, it could be, and I think that they don't know, and I think that they're planning, and I think we will know by the end of the year. They have to get something done September to the end of the year. We've gotta see them get something done. You know, they have all these bills that the House have passed, they send them to the Senate, but nothing's been passed. And he can only do so much with the pen. We got to see some action from these people, right? Yeah.
Thank you for that. Real quick, second question. You invest in real estate, and
Yes.
there's various sectors in real estate. What is your favorite sector to invest in?
My favorite sector is apartment buildings and shopping centers that I can redo. And I'll tell you why. Apartments are easy, right? They come, they go, you can get somebody to manage them, but insurance companies like them and lenders like them. You know, lenders usually like those. Shopping centers they love, and I'll tell you who's funding the big shopping centers, which is very interesting. Insurance companies. They have a lot of money. And you know who gave us our loan for construction when we were down there? The teachers union. They also have a lot of money, and they love shopping centers. I'm not talking about the malls that are having trouble. I'm talking about a community shopping center where you have the grocery store and the drugstore. People always will shop and go to those. Those are going to survive just fine. And I think that there's some in those areas. Get one that's really sort of run down, but you begin to see that the community is being redeveloped. That's what you want. I like the one we bought, 8 acres. It was you used to go into Safeway and it was raining and everything was dripping on the floor. The trees were coming up through the parking lot. I mean, we went through hell, but it was worth it because it's a pension plan for my kids, not for me. They will never, let me just tell you what it does. That, even with the loan on it, generates over $1 million net to this family. Even with the loan that's on it. And see, the kids wanted to take a big loan, naturally, of course. Oh no, not me. We're gonna pay it off in 15 years and that's it. They'll be, that's the right way to do it, I'm sorry. Okay. Any more? Yes? I won't be here to enjoy it, too bad, huh? We could have a hell of a party, Kevin. Maybe I'll just be mean, live long enough, and we'll have a hell of a party when it's paid. I promise you, we'll have a hell of a party when that free is clear.
There you go. Next event's at one of Carole's.
And there's not, and you're all invited. You're all invited, and it's not that long, maybe another 10 years. Okay.
Well, Carole, your talk is fabulous, and may you live a long, long, long time.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Anyway, my question is, the real estate is all supply and demand.
Yes.
Is there any way where we can find very good, like forecast or projection of new jobs created in say in San Francisco?
Well, if you're talking about supply and demand, let's talk about what I know. You're not going to get a lot more supply. You only have so much land here. One place that's basically growing, they've taken the shipyard, where Lennar is, and they've put a lot of homes there. That was a ghetto, but it's absolutely beautiful now. There's going to be 14,000 homes there, okay? So I think that the supply and demand here, we are struggling all the time. And the reason why is, one, we have no more land. Builders aren't building in entry level because the permit process and the land is so expensive that they can't do it. So they choose to go out to higher areas where basically they can find land, but basically the permit process is better and it's not as expensive. So here, I think the forecast is we're going to struggle with supply and demand. And I don't see that changing. I think we're going to struggle with that. Jobs, I think there's tons of jobs out there, and with the kind of jobs that you have, because in a city like San Francisco, you have to have higher end jobs, because in order to live here, that's what you have to have. The people that have the jobs at the lower end, they can't afford to live here, and that's not going to change. That's why young people need to get a college degree, and if I had a child today that was young, I would tell them, don't be a doctor, don't be a lawyer. I would tell them, go into something that in DNA and health, go into the chemical engineering, go into the environment, go into greening, go into technology. Those are the fields that I would tell them to go in. I could have come from a family of doctors. I have a brother that's 68 years old that tells his kid, don't be a doctor. Because all you do is be on the phone trying to convince somebody there that doesn't know what they're doing why you want to do some tests. So I think it's the kind of jobs, and here you have to have very specific jobs in order to have an income that you can live here. But young people are doing all that, engineers, those things. Those are the career paths. Any more questions?
Carole, sorry about that. I think this will be the final question. There are a lot of technologists that theorize that driverless cars will affect the decisions people make on where they live and where they work and how they're willing to commute. Because basically, right now, our city planning is presupposed on having two hands behind the wheel, right? So how do you think driverless cars will affect the landscape of real estate and values in the future?
I think driverless cars are coming. Absolutely. They're already testing them, and I think they're coming. I mean, if you talk to somebody like Mr. Musk from Tesla, Tesla sells 50,000 cars, and their value on the stock exchange is greater than Ford Motor Company that sold 8 million cars. And he is definitely in the driverless car business. If you look at basically Intel just bought a company in Israel that they do computers for driverless cars. So I think they're coming, yes. I think that is going to change the way people live and eat because in the way they work, because they're going to have driverless cars. Do you know Lyft just did a partnership with a company called Wayne, which is a part of basically the Alphabet company, which is under Google, and all they do is driverless cars. So Lyft now is going to have a partnership, and they're going to do drivers and driverless cars. And I think the day's going to come where people aren't going to have cars. In the city, you don't need a car. You just call Uber, you call Lyft. It'll take you where you want. Get in your driverless car and you go. If you have a car, you have a car for the weekends. That's it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you what these young people are going to do, as I said. They're going to buy the first house, they may buy a second, and then they're off to the country. That's what they're going to do, and that's where they may have their car. They're not going to have cars. They hate them. That's exactly what's going to happen. That's what I think. Anyway, I could be totally wrong, but I think that's exactly what's going to happen. What do you think?
I haven't taken my car to the garage in over a month.
That's what I mean. You see? Okay. I have kids that live in the city. They have cars, but they don't use them either. And they only use them when they need to use them. If they're going like someplace far away, they all Uber, cab, and that's it.
Cars actually is a major, I'm sold out already. Cars is a way for a lot of neighborhood associations to prevent new development because they make the case that there's not enough parking to support new tenants. And
Yes.
that's the way that a lot of neighborhood associations are preventing new construction, new housing. So if that can go away, that increases inventory, that's great for Canada.
And that's going to happen, believe me. And they're not going to have cars. Nobody's going to be driving a car. I think in 10, 15 years, there won't even be cars.
I gave up my car 4 years ago. I don't
See?
have a car anymore.
Good for you. I have a car that sits in a garage. I haven't driven it in maybe, I would say, 5 months. Number one, I have drivers. I drive well, I'm old and I get tired in the car, and I have 2 wonderful drivers. Randy's one, he's back there, and then I have Colin. So I don't drive. Why should I, right? I keep the car in case of an emergency, in case of an emergency one night or whatever. But it's ridiculous.
It's like a tool in the shed.
That's it, exactly. It's old school, it's outdated. It served its purpose. I don't even want to drive. All those things that are on all those gadgets. I'd rather have somebody drive me. That's better, right? Okay, are we did it not?
No.
More food?
Yeah.
See you guys.
So much, Carole. And everybody feel free to hang out. We have a lot of wine, a lot of coffee if you need it, a little bit more bites. Thank you guys for coming.